You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, it's another week here in Burleson, and I have Elizabeth Becker here from the Crowley House of Hope, and we're going to talk about what they need to do this summer, and also I'm mostly going to talk about what the impact of that one big, beautiful bill will have on our food pantries, because it is going to have an impact, and I got a few anecdotes about that. Also, we would be remiss if we didn't remember our folks down in Texas, down in Hunt County.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's going to impact us here in terms of your food pantries, but you never know, right?
Right.
Well, one way or the other it will, because, there's going to be a great deal of need there. That whole thing is so tragic. My wife has been keeping up with it, and it's just really been depressing in our household. Mm-hmm. And, just sad. There's really nothing else to say about it,
Right.
except, God be with him, his best, and be comforted as best they can. But that's something we all need to remember this week, or for months, actually. It's going to take a long time.
It will.
And for those families, it'll be forever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine sending my children to have a good time. And
Mm-hmm. We were talking about that in our
Suffer
Sunday school class
tragedy.
yesterday, and the women were all saying that very same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they just couldn't put their minds around the
Yeah.
fact that have somebody, send your child to camp. We all went to camp as
Yeah,
kids.
right.
And, and our parents said, thank God it's camp. And, you send them off for a week, and, you never really thought about anything like that ever happening.
No.
And, well, now we do. So remember them. But anyway, we're going to talk about our local needs as well. This morning, I dropped off some produce from my garden at Promises. And Robin and I have made it a habit to go to the store early in the month to, go by and throw a few things in the basket from H-E-B or something like that. And I went to my buddy Dave, who works there, and I said, tell me what you need. And he goes, let me show you. And he took me to the canned food section, 8 cans. Mm-hmm. That's it. 8.
Yeah.
And there were people sitting in that lobby, and I don't know what they were going to give them.
Mm-hmm.
So are you experiencing things like that?
Right. It definitely is a hit or miss right now. Right now, we've got a pretty good stock, but we're also in the early days of the month, which means we will see the bulk of families in the next 2 weeks, and so that supply will diminish. And whether or not it will be replaced is yet to be seen. So
Yeah.
great deal of ebb and flow and uncertainty there.
Well, let's talk about our sponsors, because we can talk about this for all show long.
That's
And
right.
all right. But anyway, thank you to Otto at our place. I was there last Thursday morning. As always, a great experience. That's the reason why we go there.
Mm-hmm.
My Sunday school buddies and I go there, and we talk football or politics or, I don't know, can't solve either one. So just things like that. So it's a good place to go. Also, I like to go to Gina's when I do business, so to speak, when I'm talking to a sponsor or a potential sponsor, or just doing podcast business. I go to Gina's because I like the atmosphere, I like the food. They have the afternoon ball games on, so it's a good place to do these things. Also, thank you to our friend John Williams over at Pro Roofing. We didn't get hit nearly as hard, obviously, as our friends down south, but we still got some rain, and this is a good time to make sure your roof is in good shape, because it's not when it's raining is not the best time to find out about these things, right? The best time to find out is now, if you have a problem. And that's the problem, not the problem. That's the benefit of John. I'll say it right, John, sorry. The benefit of John is he'll tell you the truth about it. He'll come in and say your roof's fine, and so, you don't have to worry about it, or you need a few repairs, or you need a new roof. He'll tell you the truth about your roof is what I say. So call him at 817-734-2756. He inspected my roof about 3 weeks ago and said I was good to go. So, that is nice. You hear storms coming, that at least you don't have damage to worry
Right.
about that's going to cause other types of problems. Also, my friend Jeff Kelly, 817-781-0546. He's with the Wethington Agency. He was on about 3 weeks ago, I believe, and we talked about real estate, and he sells all over this area, Crowley included. Johnson County, very busy. Godly, and Joshua is particularly Godly, is moving along. There's growth everywhere in this county. Mm-hmm. We are like the 3rd or 4th largest growing county in the DFW area. I think the number 1 is Kaufman County, over in east of Dallas. Yeah. And then Parker County is another one that's just really booming. All right. But anyway, 817-781-0546. And being the beginning of the month, you should have gotten your Local Life magazine by now, or you can check out locallifetx.com. Tiffany has got really good articles, as always, good local spotlights on businesses or certain types of businesses. Last month was like women-owned businesses and things like that. I know she does a nonprofit one every year, in December, I believe, right?
That's when it was last year, yes.
Yeah, were you were in that?
We
too?
were.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, good. Now, sometimes, we think it's all about Burleson, but no, Crowley. We don't
Right.
want to forget Crowley, right?
Let's not forget Crowley.
Yeah, okay. Local Life magazine, you should have it out. 30,000 homes do, so there you go. Also, a friend Al Warner, Bass Printing and Consulting Services for your promotional needs. Al and John are both members of my networking group, B&I group, and so I got to know them very well, not just as sponsors, but as people, and they're good quality people. Al will get your job done. If you need something with your logo stamped on it, hats, cups, pins, shirts, farm animals, I don't know, if whatever your logo, he'll get it there. And so call him at either 817-616-8761 or, well, those are other numbers. I just stick with the one, 817-616-8761, or Alric, that's ALRICK, at bassprinting.com. And he'll give you a holler, and he'll work it all out. At the end, we have a couple of nonprofits going on, just like y'all do. Another anecdote, I had Amber Case on last Tuesday, and she brought Kelly Alexander. You probably know these people.
I listened. Yeah, it was
Oh,
a
you
great
did?
show.
Yeah. 2 days later, Amber puts on Facebook some photos of what's going on at Harvest House, empty pantries.
Right.
So, this is going across everywhere.
It is.
I'm sure y'all talk about these things off and on. I don't know if you have like a group chat or something like that, but I bet y'all communicate with each other.
We check in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do y'all do swaps? Like, I got a bunch of green beans I don't need. I need corn, and y'all could swap it and stuff like that.
We have, and some products we can do that with. And when we can, we certainly do.
I have to wonder why the shelves are so empty. I mean, I don't think people are less generous. I just have to believe that the need it just keeps rising and rising.
Right. It typically does in the summer months. Children are home. They, as we were talking before we came on, those free and reduced meals and breakfast and lunch at school. Most kiddos have lost access to that. There are summer feeding programs. You can find out about those by calling 211. But they're not always convenient for families to get to. Additionally, several years ago, the state of Texas did opt into the summer EBT program, which is where the funding, if you are on free or reduced breakfast and lunch at school, then you would see a bump in your food stamps in the summer months to help parents offset those costs. The state has not opted into that program the last couple of summers. And so I think for a family of four, roughly people would receive about $147 in additional food stamp benefits for the month, which would go a long way in making sure children had food. So I think the need is always more in the summer months. Utility bills are higher. There's just so many different things going on in people's lives that they are searching for ways to make a difference in their budget, and sometimes visiting the food pantry. So we have families that we only see in the summertime or at the holidays. So it is just related to the calendar in a lot of ways.
I saw Abbott did veto that bill about a month ago, and for the life of me, I don't know why.
So the state has to pay the administrative cost to operate that additional summer EBT program, and they didn't have the funding for it.
They have the funding for it.
Or didn't earmark the funding for it.
That's the better way of putting it. I mean, I'm going to be the political one here. They have the money. We have enough money in that rainy day fund to fund that administrative cost multiple times over. For the life of me, I don't understand why he vetoed that bill. All these government programs, they're under fire right now. people point at, waste, fraud, abuse, etc., or people gaming the system. And yes, that goes on. We know that. But in the backwash of all this are going to be people that are hurt by it. And so it's like, well, we're just going to throw the whole thing out and, to try to solve this one issue, and it's going to hurt people that really have nothing to do with that issue.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm a bit indignant. Abbott should have signed that bill. And I don't understand it, because we're going to be getting property tax relief. We have a rainy day fund. We got the money. And he tried to explain it with some falderall about, the fraud, waste, and abuse routine. And it's like, okay. So in your zeal to take that on, some kids are going to go without. Is that really a good trade-off for you? But there you go. That's my politics. Well, and I know you can't. And all the people in the nonprofit world really can't afford to be as frank as I am.
Right.
But because they need contributions on both sides, so to speak. But really, when you've got people coming in, politics doesn't mean a darn thing, does it?
That's right.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Come visit Crowley House of Hope. Go visit Harvest House. Go visit Promises. You'll see it doesn't matter.
Yeah. A lot of people, when it comes to Promises, in particular, because it is so associated with the First Baptist, but, Harvest House and House of Hope are both also faith-based, and they're connected to maybe the church community, if not a specific church. A lot of people think, well, I have to be a certain type of person to get that type of aid from that kind of community, that type of pantry, and that's obviously not true.
No, all are welcome. Every creed, color, nationality, whatever you are, if you are in need of food assistance, that is, as a human being, we believe that is one of our basic responsibilities, is to ensure that men, women, and children of all ages have access to food. Nobody in this country, especially, should have to wonder where their next meal is coming from.
Exactly.
And we are here to help alleviate that stress for families as best we can.
Well, also, another concern that the Promises folks had was about some of their clients were not citizens. They may have been here illegally, and they were afraid that under new laws and whatnot, Promises and other groups would have to report them. And so they're reluctant to come in. And so they've had to make a real outreach to, we don't ask that question.
Right.
And you're not going to, we're not going to inquire about where you're from and how you got here, even if you don't speak English well, if at all.
Right.
So
yeah, that is not our concern at all.
But it has been, it has had an impact on it, because you see the stories and all that, and some of these people are afraid that they come in and that ICE is going to show up at the door. And I know the Promises folks had to have training as to what to do if ICE came in the door. Now, am I worried about that happening? Or they worried about that happening? Not really, but they wanted to make sure they're prepared, and they had to know to ask the right questions of the officers and whatnot. And I guess, have you all done anything similar to that?
Sure, I think we have. Well, I know we have also received those training documents, both through our medical clinic. So we're seeing, a lot of different folks, come through that service. And so a charitable system that we're a part of put out some guidance on that, as well as our partner agencies in the food pantry world. So yes, we know what our rights are, and we understand what the rights of individuals are as well.
Well, it seems like there's certain places that should be off limits to ICE, and that should be one of them, because it's a private charity and they're not stealing a dime from the government or anything like that. And so we'll see, we'll see what goes on in the future, because I know there's been some backlash about some of the activities, and maybe there'll be some modifications, but I am going to get a little more political, I'm afraid. Yesterday I read this in Politico about what's going to happen with the food programs. Okay, now I'll grant you, Politico does lean a little bit to the left, but so, And that's the thing about these arguments about these programs. So you got Republicans saying there's no harm's going to be done, and got Democrats say disaster is going to happen. And the truth is, like most things, are in the middle, right? You know?
Sure.
And are they lying to you? Well, not really. They're just not telling you the whole story. You know, the Democrats got their facts, and Republicans got their facts, and they're both facts, but they're not telling you the other side of it. And what's going to happen is, for example, they're going to cut that SNAP program, and they estimate 6 billion to 9 billion meals annually will be eliminated. That's which is roughly the same number as pantries like y'all's across the country provide. So we're basically saying your food pantries are going to have to double up to make up for the SNAP cuts. Is that going to be? That's going to be a rabbit out of the hat, isn't it?
Right. There will be a gap, and I think, you know, time will tell what that looks like, and food pantries will adjust as best we can. You know, again, we're some time away from these things taking effect, and so
2027 is when a lot of these are going to affect. Conveniently after the midterms, but that's another story. By the way, if I get a little too far off the cuff, a week from tomorrow I'm going to do a whole analysis of the One Big Beautiful Bill and all this, but this is what's happening, all right? The SNAP programs are going to be reduced, and not just meals aren't going to be served, you know, with the EBT cards and whatever else, but also it may affect the eligibility of a lot of those kids for free lunches. If you're on SNAP, you're automatically enrolled. If you're not, you still may be, but you may not be, okay?
Yeah.
You know what the biggest thing about this the food programs at school, the biggest obstacle we had to overcome when we first really pushed it about 20 years ago in BISD is the stigma of being on a free lunch.
Yeah.
You know, we had kids that, you know, we're not poor, I don't need free lunch. But the thing is, a lot of funding was tied to the number of kids on free lunch, right? Not just for food, but for like math and science programs and whatever else. And so they pushed it pretty hard. And you had families like 5 kids in the system that probably had the wherewithal, but they're eligible. And we had to talk them into, hey, put your kids on the food program. They don't have to eat it. You know?
Right.
But this SNAP program is going to affect that. They said they're basically, in the bill, is going to cut nearly $1 trillion over the next decade. And also, he just recently cut $1 billion in federal funds for food banks, including money to buy from local farms. I don't understand this. $1 billion, that's not even a rounding error in the budget.
I think my understanding of that particular cut was that it was a COVID-era program, and in an effort to eliminate any additional COVID-era work, you know, to just sort of put a period at the end of that sentence. Some of those programs were eliminated. You know, obviously the hope is that they're reworked in some way so that I don't think there was any issue regarding, you know, the validity or the need for the program, just that maybe we need to look at it a little differently. So,
but earlier this year, you and Amber and Debbie were here, and this is right after this happened.
Right.
And it was concerning, and still is.
It is.
Yeah, and because, you know, that's a lot of money. Well, if it's reworked and put into a new system, great, but, you know, a lot of this also is going to rely on the state you reside in, how much they're going to pick up the slack.
Right.
And there's no question, there's no question that some of the SNAP programs and the Medicaid programs, for that matter, were gamed by certain states to receive a lot more money from the feds and really than what was intended. Okay, I get that. All right, because you get situations where some states would cook the books a little bit to get more money. And that's the Republicans' response to all these type of cuts. You know, the states are going to have to be a bit more, not just honest, but a bit more on top of what goes on in their own programs. Okay, great. What are you going to do with the kids, all right, in the meantime, while this is all shuffled out?
Right.
Okay. Something's got to happen.
Yeah.
And
I think that, you know, from our perspective, what has to happen is that this is an opportunity for our community.
I was going to go that direction in a few minutes, but I think it's better if you did.
Yeah. It really is. There's great growth in this area, as we see every day, you know, driving from point A to point B. And with great growth comes often a surge in need as well. and that's where we're at. There are lots of people coming here for various reasons, and this is an opportunity for our community to first and foremost welcome that new person, whoever they are and whatever their situation is. And secondly, to become more involved, get to know what's happening in your community, get to understand why families are facing some of these struggles. You can do that firsthand by volunteering or touring or, there's lots of ways to participate with all of these nonprofit organizations. And so, I would encourage people who are concerned or who just have questions. We've faced this whether it be with donors or even shoppers in the thrift store. Where's this money going? How is this supporting people? These are fair conversations, and we welcome them.
They're not antagonistic.
No, they're not.
Okay,
but I think
not.
they are genuinely curious about how it is we are tackling some of these issues, and so it is an opportunity. So I would say while some of the news can feel very discouraging, and we can wonder how in the world it is we're going to manage. You can leave that to me and Amber and a few other people. We'll toss and turn at night and figure that out. But what you can do is give a gift of time, give a gift of food. All of us accept food donations 5 days a week, probably 6, and for some of us, and then service to your neighbor is highly important in this time. And so, get involved.
That's kind of the point I'm going to make. Whether or not you like this bill or like parts of it and don't like parts of it, and on and on. Like I said, I'll talk more about it specifically in about a week. It's taken me a little time to gather the information and not just react at it, But Burleson, Crowley, et cetera, is going to have to step up their game. That's all there is to it. If you like this bill, fine, good. You're going to get tax cuts, et cetera. Don't sit at home. If this is what limited government looks like, it means the government's not going to step in all the time. We have to step in, okay? And we've gotten, I think, so used to the government taking care of everything that we just said, the government has all these programs, I don't need to be involved. That's not true at all. So I'm challenging the listeners. I hope they share this. I'm challenging them. If you like this bill, fine. There are parts of it that I think needed to happen, but that also puts more responsibility on the communities to support these kind of programs, to support your neighbors. Right. Okay? And so that's where I think I would be the most upset, is that people are saying, great, we needed all these cuts, and then they just sit back and don't amp up their share or don't kick in. Right. I don't know if you keep track of who gives what and all this other stuff. I mean, specifically, there's probably something that they sign for the IRS and all that, but my bet is a small percentage of each community, Burleson County, support these pantries. And that's got to change. If we want these pantries to thrive. Some people think they'll act as magnets for people to come to our communities that need these kind of services, that hear about it. And my point is, they're here now.
Here.
They're already here, all right? And they're going to come.
Yes.
So we can either take care of this situation ourselves through these pantries, or we can bellyache about it when we see a lot of people not being served. And
we're in a sort of a resource thin area out this way, right? So we obviously here in Crowley, we serve a lot of South Tarrant County. There really aren't, south of 20, a lot of resources in this sort of southwest part of Tarrant County. You've got a couple there along the Alta Mesa Hewlin corridor, and then it's us. And then in Johnson County, again, it's a large area, a large rural population, and that changes how people do these kinds of things. And so when we are in sort of resource thin spaces, you do see people travel further distances to get what they need. It makes sense. You need to take care of your family.
Well, I know a friend, Sherry Scott, does those blessing boxes, right? And they have a hard time keeping those full.
Yeah.
And where I live, we are now what they call a food desert of sorts, because since the City Market went out of business,
Right.
You have to travel much further.
Right.
And for a lot of people, transportation's an issue too.
It's an issue.
Yeah. And so, anyway, I'm not getting into, City Market was helpful because they would buy extra and the pantries could pay for it. But I'm not going to get into all the City Market
Sure.
business because that's a complex story. But the point is that that the strains on these pantries is not just on getting the food, but it's just trying to keep up. And it's also, I've seen it at Promises a couple of times where they have like cases of black-eyed peas. I don't know what sadist wants to give people black-eyed peas, because I hate it. But they don't have like corn or not. Do y'all have like a kids eat free type program?
We don't. We maintain our regular programs throughout the summer. Pantries open 3 days a week, and there's an option once a month just for senior adults. But no, nothing special for kids. We do try to, obviously when we're doing food drives and things like that around this time of year, concentrate on things kiddos can use at home if mom and dad aren't there. But yeah, it is. Nothing special.
Well, I know that one thing that Debbie asked for from our church was the kind of canned food that kids could open and use themselves. They know how to
Hot
use
tops.
a microwave or stove or whatever. And so, stuff like that, as opposed to like, canned asparagus. Well, okay, it's wonderful, but is a kid going to eat that?
Probably not.
Yeah. So, but that's another thing too. It concerns me is the nutritional value of a lot of this. That's when I buy cereal for Promises, I always buy generic Cheerios or something like that, or generic cornflakes, nothing sugared.
Right.
No, generic Cocoa Puffs or whatever, because the kids don't need that sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point, Brad, because that's what families want. There's some stereotyping going on in the media right now around folks are buying junk food and this, that, and the other thing. Sure, there's some of that. I buy junk food too. It happens. But when our pantry is open and we've got a good display of produce, that's what will go first.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what will go first, because number one, it's very expensive in the grocery store. Number two, so many of our pantry guests, are dealing with health disparities, whether that be, diabetes,
Yeah,
high blood pressure,
I'm on
high
that one.
cholesterol, right?
All that too.
These folks are dealing with some health disparities that also, that they are also trying to manage through food pantry services. And so the more we can be mindful of that,
When
the
I come
better
in
off we are.
with extra stuff from my garden, they go. I think it's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Because it's not only is it locally grown and all that business, but they'll say this will be gone by the afternoon.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these moms, probably a majority, I'd imagine, are women that come in.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I know
so.
there's some men,
Sure.
but I know that majority are probably mothers or women taking care of people, whatever, and they have the same nutritional concerns as
Yes.
we all do.
That's right.
It's not like they're looking for a cheap junk high.
No.
They're looking for something nutritious to put on the table, right? And so that's why produce and such as that is a really important thing. It's often overlooked.
It is. And I think that's why I keep encouraging, come visit one of these places. You'll see people who have the same concerns you have when you go to the grocery store. They're dealing with the same things we're all dealing with, and trying to manage it with just probably less money and fewer resources.
Right. And I would imagine some of your all's clients, if you will, go to all the pantries. Because there are limitations, I'm sure.
Right.
How much you can give, how much Harvest House can give, whatnot. And you're trying. It's almost like a week-to-week thing.
It is. And I think it's fair to say that some families are using food pantries like I use a grocery store. If money is tight in week number 1, that doesn't change week number 2, 3, or 4.
Right.
And so if you can visit a couple of different food pantries on a monthly basis, then more than likely you're doing that.
Yeah. I've seen, y'all are pretty generous, but it's not going to be enough for a family of 4 all month.
No.
And you're not going to be doing it every week for them, because you got other people to take care of, and we all know that. But it's tough. But you sent us some material earlier. Talk about House of Hope in particular. I don't know what particular order, so Josh, let her roll.
Yeah, I think the first thing we've got coming up is our huge Christmas in July event. So this is a primary fundraiser through the thrift store, where we will transform that space into to Christmas. It's pretty remarkable. So that will happen the week of July 15th through the 19th. On Tuesday, the 15th, we'll do a sort of a snack and shop event in the evening from 5 to 8 p.m. So if you're ready to get the holidays going a bit early, you can join us for that evening opportunity. We have a lot of folks who want to shop with us, but work during the day, and so this is specifically an opportunity for them. And then the rest of the week, Wednesday through Saturday, July 16th through the 19th, our regular thrift store hours. And then after the 19th, that's it until probably about October. So if home decor, outdoor lighting, anything imaginable related to Christmas will be available.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah, fun
so
times.
Those little things, when you're struggling, those little things make a big difference. If you could, get a string of lights and put them in your apartment or house, whatever, put them in the, around the room or whatever, try to make it festive for the kids, because, it's really tough. We got a lot of events going on at Christmas time, like Toys for Tots and things like that, and that's always a great thing. But Christmas in July, so it's not just Hallmark that does this.
No.
My wife is watching these movies. I'm like, it's July.
I know. It is a little hard to wrap our head around.
Yeah, but also our friends at Next Step have a Christmas in July on the 26th.
Yeah.
That's a Saturday, and they're not collecting canned food or clothing. They're collecting new toys, and which we'll gladly accept if they, in your event. So this starts next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. Let's keep this in the rotation there, Josh. He's got the thumbs up. All right.
Okay.
Okay, because we'll have a couple more shows. I got one tomorrow with Victoria Johnson. We're going to talk about Girls Opportunity Fund and city business. And then Monday I have a young woman that's starting a Montessori school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. All right, Christmas in July starting July 15th. What else you got on the roster
so
here?
the other thing we're working on,
school.
it is, about the time children get out of school, we start working on back to school. So this year, in partnership with Work on Me, we are hosting our annual back to school event. This is for children living in our 6 zip code service area who attend any type of school, charter school, homeschool, public school, private school, whatever it is you are doing, you are welcome to register. Children receive new backpacks. This year, parents are going to be able to select school supplies. In the past, we'd packed backpacks based on grades.
They have to be clear.
We are purchasing clear backpacks, right, to be in compliance.
Now, are these backpacks and accessories and whatever else, are they provided to you, or are you hoping the community donates?
Some of both. Some of both.
Okay.
Some are given to us. Some are donated to us. Some we purchase. It just depends.
When my wife was working at Centennial in particular, but also she's a BHS, and she worked for the BISD for about 11, 12 years. She was doing like credit recovery programs.
Okay.
And some of those kids had pretty tough home lives, right? Which may have contributed to why they were in credit recovery. And we would go about the week before school started. We'd go to Office Depot or whatever, and we'd buy some school supplies. And so she would give out, a folder and pencils, pens, paper, to every one of her students. And that's because when it comes down, okay, I have medicine and food and rent, what am I going to do about school supplies?
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's how we feel about back to school. It's supposed to be, most of us remember it as a fun time, going and picking those things out and getting ready. Yeah,
getting the list.
It was a fun time.
Box. I want the Monkeys pencil box, not the,
exactly.
The Banana Splits, if you know who that old TV show.
So we want that for the families that we're serving as well. And we want that most especially for those children. Here in Crowley ISD, there are still some uniform requirements, so we do some gift cards for uniforms assistance, and then, of course, lots of school supplies. So there'll be a bounce house and some other fun stuff going on that day. You do have to register your child for
Right.
this program. You can go to our website and
What
get
day
more
again is this?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what day it is,
okay.
because I won't. It's by registration only.
Okay.
But you can visit our website or give us a call, and we'll be happy to
Okay.
help you
So
get
if they're
registered.
interested, if you hear this, share this, guys, with
That's
people
right.
that need this. Give them a holler.
Yeah,
And,
it's on our Facebook page, so and on
Okay.
the website.
Okay, so and
And
Alley
then
Cats.
our good friends at Alley Cats are doing a school supply drive for us on August the 2nd between 10 and 2. I believe if you bring, I don't know how many school supplies, but anyway, donate some school supplies and come and have a good time.
You're going to dunk the mayor for charity?
That's right. That's so.
I have him on the show the 5th of August, so I'm
Oh, yeah,
going
you
to be
can
able to
ask him about that, see how that
Right.
went. Of course, Crowley House of Hope will be out there. You can stop by and visit with us, learn a little bit more about what we're doing there. But yeah,
I'm
stuff.
really impressed with how Alley Cats has really integrated themselves with the Burleson community and this whole area.
yeah.
You know, they do a lot of stuff like this. I've been trying to get them to be a sponsor of the show for a while, but I was like, hey, they don't know about Bullcorn. Everybody knows about Alley Cats. So anyway, I guess they don't need a humble podcast, but there you are. But you get all this,
lots of
inflatables,
fun
good
stuff. Yeah,
it's great because
yeah. Get
you
a
know.
get a $10 game card when you make a donation of school supplies.
it's August
So,
2nd.
yes, August 2nd.
That's a Saturday, 10 to 2. Now, bless their hearts. I'm glad to see Alley Cats do these kind of things.
And I think they've had a lot of good success with them.
they have.
So,
I met them at a chamber event, and they were very sincere about wanting to do, not just do well, but do good, that kind of thing. They want to do good for the community. So that's a great thing.
yeah.
And I think there's
one more. Yeah. So
yes.
again, if you want to come out and learn about places or come out and learn about Crowley House of Hope, our next and last Lunch and Learn for 2025 is September 23rd. You can call or email me through the website, and I'd be happy to get you registered for that.
Now, we've been focusing almost exclusively about food, but you also provide financial assistance as well.
Yes, we
And
do.
has that also been constrained a bit?
The volume has definitely increased.
Right.
So I heard Amber say last week on the show that they had already filled all of their July appointments.
Right.
We are in the same boat. On June 27th, I filled the last. And so, folks calling now for July are.
Are they calling like, I have a bill to pay in 2 days?
A lot of times, right? We used to be able to meet people in those emergency spots. That's just not possible anymore.
Is it the money or just this overwhelming demand?
Just the demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good heavens. I mean,
Yeah.
particularly this time of year, in the July,
Yeah.
I dread my electric bill. Oh boy, do I. It's always July is always the highest, and August is right there with it.
Yeah.
September and far behind. It's just,
And I think too, when you're overseeing nonprofits, when things get tight for us too. Our electric bills are high as well.
oh yeah.
And so managers look at where can we tighten our belt, and sometimes programs like financial assistance are the first things that get cut or decreased for sure, because it is hard to fundraise for at times. And
Well, it is because, I know how closely y'all work together in the nonprofit community, but there's needs across the board, not just in food pantries, but Crazy Eights has some needs, and
Yeah.
Next Step Women's Center, and on and on and on. It's just, I just don't really think that the people in the general community realize these situations exist as much. I mean, they may know about them or they may read about them, but one of the advantages I've had sitting here is I see it globally, and I can see how across the board how uniform this is, and it's not going to get better. The economy could go through the roof like some people think it will, but as Christ said, the poor you'll always have with you. It's just always going to be the case.
Yeah.
And it's not always because of bad personal choices either.
Oh.
I think sometimes people think, well, they made their wrong choices. Maybe they did, but that doesn't mean that it should affect how we serve them.
Right. Right. We will answer for our actions only.
Don't remind me.
But I do think, to go back to that, message of getting involved and learning more, wherever your passion lies, maybe it's not food assistance or medical assistance. Maybe it is, young, mothers and families and supporting them in the bringing in their children into the world. Whatever it might be, find your passion and get involved with that, because when you help one person working through one organization, I can guarantee you that you are benefiting the work of all of us, because oftentimes these families are utilizing multiple services and multiple nonprofits, and so your positive effect with one organization ripples through to everyone.
One of the things about the SNAP program I didn't really get into is about the work requirements, but you don't have any requirements at all.
No.
All right. I mean, it's, again, a lot of people think because it's faith-based, there's going to be some sort of, at least you're going to have to sit through something, or you're going to have to acknowledge something that maybe or may not believe. And it's basically, they don't even ask. You don't ask if they're employed. If I bet they'll tell you if they're employed or not. But you don't ask any of those questions.
No. Come as you are. We will care for you.
That's wonderful. It really is. And I've talked to others. I remember talking with Jennifer Wood about how some people kind of game the system, but for every one person like that, there's 100 that's going to be positively benefited by these programs. And we can't let anecdotal evidence or stories we've heard or saw on cotton picking Facebook about somebody, driving up to a food pantry in a Cadillac kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's just rubbish. I mean, it's like, I always thought about the feeding of the 5,000. Were all 5,000 of those people worthy to be fed? Who knows, right? Did Christ didn't say, you guys or whatever, you don't get fed because you're bums. No, it didn't do that at all. It just, everybody.
That's right.
And that's how it works, right?
Yeah. I'm not here to determine who's worthy for what. That is not my job.
But, how do you, I got to ask you another vein. I mean, I guess every now and then you hear positive stories, but all this, but the majority of them probably are pretty tough.
Yes.
How do you maintain getting up in the morning, keeping an enthusiasm, not letting it get to you?
Yeah. I think it comes down to, and we've talked about this, Brad, this is my vocation. This is why God created me. This is why I'm here. I believe wholeheartedly in, I was made in this time to be in this space doing this work. So that's it, first and foremost. Secondly, the spirit of giving, right? We have about 90 volunteers working with us right now. Those folks get out of bed every day and selflessly give time. That is a resource they will never be able to regenerate. And they've shared it selflessly with others. And so they provide a great deal of inspiration. And then, of course, there is that sort of good tired, and I'm always in that space. So we're always good tired, and
well, you got a lot more stamina than a lot of people. I can tell you that, because some days, it's like me teaching school. I don't regret one iota of it, but there's some days it's like I'm going to lie here. No, I got to get up. Some days are better than others, but most days are good, and most kids I dealt with are great and all that. So it was. In no way a bad decision to become a school teacher, but there were days that I'm thinking I must have been crazy. But anyway,
we have those days too.
Which it's I know, but still, it's I guess to kind of wrap this up a little bit, this is going to be a challenge to all our communities. Okay, all this stuff I've been reading here, it's going to impact people we know. Will it be tomorrow? No, because a lot of this doesn't take place until another 18 months from now. Some of it does take place at the beginning of the new year. But it is going to be incumbent upon us as a community, particularly as Christians in this community, to really pick up our game on this thing. Because I try to use a lot of biblical analogies about y'all, like the loaves and fishes and whatever else. And I tell people, and you can agree with this, don't feel like just because you're not bringing in a forklift load of flatbed full of groceries that somehow your contribution's not going to be significant. You walk in there with 6 cans of beans you picked up from, Albertsons or whatever. That's 6 families.
That's right.
So that's the widow's mites comes to mind for me always, because God's going to take those 6 cans, and He's probably going to bless that person more than if I walked in and I got a truckload here, because sometimes those 6 cans may have been sacrificial giving, and I always reiterate that point because some people get intimidated.
Right.
Because I can't do anything. I only got $5, so I can only get a few cans. I'm like,
do it.
Same with the monthly donations, right?
That's right. Right. Some of our we exist on the $25 a month donor, basically. And so while we appreciate all donors, don't diminish what your gift is, right? It's that's been put upon your heart to do, and it has great value. So please don't diminish what it is that you can do.
We
It's
had
important.
last Monday at Wings of Hope, which I'm about to talk about again. Why don't you throw that Wings of Hope event up? They have one coming on right before your event, August 1st. That's on a Friday evening. They have they call the Roundup for Writers. I'm sure you're familiar with Wings of Hope.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in the Fort Worth Stockyards around 6 o'clock on that Friday evening, and they're going to have giveaways, and they're going to have events, and Patsy Dumas is going to be there to bless the event, because, she's in a lot of things, including my Opportunity Fund group I'm with. So that's what else is going on, and a lot of that works together. So, Roundup for Writers, don't forget that. Also, I mentioned on the 26th, the Next Step Women's Center. I don't think we have a promotional item for that, but they're going to be on the show in about a week. So we're going to talk about that. Go ahead and throw the radios up there. Our friend Rich Hooper has been promoting this show this morning on The Journey. I bet you've heard The Journey.
I have.
Yeah, my wife likes it quite a bit.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, 88.3 The Journey, and he's a very busy man. I've been trying to get him on the show again, and he says, I want to, but he's on this trip or this event or whatever else. But anyway, they're going to promote this, so people will be directed towards the podcast, so they'll be hopefully getting information. Also, I'll be putting it tonight on my community radio TX at 6 tonight and 1 o'clock tomorrow. So if y'all riding around, it's on TuneIn, Live 365. I always put a link on the Facebook page so you can not only listen to great rock hits, but you could also listen to this show as well. And so you'll have hopefully multiple times to be able to access this show. Okay, I'm coming towards the end. I'm going to let you have the last word. Well, I might have the last word. I got something to say. You go ahead and have the last word.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having us on again. And again, come out and see us.
Oh, before we go, I forget, you have the Thursday North Texas Giving Day in late September on your schedule.
That's right.
Gina's Pizza again.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we there last year, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, good time.
I got to remind Otto, but he'll be more than glad to do it. He was very excited to do that. So that's September 25th, I think.
Something like that. Yeah,
it's the last Thursday of September. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
so that's coming up.
That's coming up.
Yeah. No. Come out and come see me at House of Hope, or stop by the food pantry and ask, and we'll be happy to show you around. I think there is hope. There is always hope, and that's what Crowley House of Hope is for this community, and we couldn't do it without our donors, big and large. So thank you.
My last word, normally I let the guests have it, but my last word is to the community of Burleson, Crowley, et cetera, this whole area. It's time to step up your game, because whether or not, whatever your opinion of the bill that was just signed, good, bad, or indifferent, there's no question that the need is still growing. And if you like this bill, great, fine. That's wonderful. But it also puts the burden on us to take care of these people. We can't rely on somebody else to do it. The churches are doing all they can. Individuals, a lot of them are doing all they can, but it's going to require us to step in the breach for some of these coming waves of demand caused by some of these program changes, period.
Yeah.
And as far as the debate about that, that's for next Tuesday, not today. But just, I'm calling you out, Johnson County, Joshua, Alvarado, et cetera. Let's put our money where our mouth is, where our food where our mouth is, so to speak. That sounds kind of weird. But anyway, that's my exhortation for today. Josh, thanks for the nimbleness on the computer as always.
Anytime.
He's really gotten the hang of this, right?
He's great.
Well, we don't have to beat him as often as we used to. How about those marks healing up nicely? Good. Good. All right.
You'd never know.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
It only took me, how long have I been doing this?
Oh, you had it by the second or third show.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's easy peasy with you guys. For me, it's
Yeah.
like, how do you turn this on?
Yeah, it's too many buttons.
Well, thanks for showing us.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, I know you have a long walk back.
That's right.
But you got your umbrella.
I got my umbrella, and it's a beautiful day.
Tomorrow I have Victoria on. We're going to talk mostly about city business, but we're going to spend about the last 15 minutes talking about the Burleson Opportunity Fund, which we're both part of. And I have them on the show as a separate group in about, what's the day, the 7th, in about 5 weeks. I try to book out about 4 or 5 weeks at a time, and that kind of thing. So y'all tune in tomorrow and find out what's going on with our city. And we will see y'all tomorrow.